Weapons go off by themselves all the time.
Grandmaster Jay is back in the news today. Let's talk about that. Now, if you don't remember Grandmaster Jay, he's this guy.
If I'm not paying attention and I take this weapon and I bang it, look what just happened. The bolt goes forward. The weapon has fired. If you sit down and you bang this on the ground, you will blow your head off. It happens in basic training every day.
Yeah, so as we all know, or many of you might know, an AR-15 platform rifle, that gun did not go off. There is a round in the chamber. It did not go off because ARs don't just go off when you gently set them on the ground. No, you're not killing hundreds of people in boot camp. Let's talk about why he's in the news today, because it is a juicy story. So, Grandmaster Jay, leader of Nfac, the Not Fucking Around Coalition militia that demonstrated in Louisville, is arrested on a federal charge. Now, this very intelligent, very smart guy leads the Not Fucking Around Coalition, which is a black militia. And now, I have no problem with people being armed at protests. I have no problem with people doing armed protests as a source of sign of saying we will not be controlled by the government. Got no issue with that whatsoever. I got no issue with white people arming themselves. I got no issue with black people arming with themselves. Got no issue with Asian people or any race of arming themselves. I don't care if you're poor and you're arming yourself. I don't care if you're rich and you're arming yourself. Actually, I think when you're rich and you arm yourself, I think that's just called the military because you run the world. But moving on, that was a bad joke. Grandmaster Jay is the leader of Nfac, a all-black militia located in Atlanta, Georgia, or based in Atlanta, Georgia. They've done a lot of protests. At several of the protests, it seems like a couple of their people had an issue with not shooting each other on accident. Let's talk about why he was recently arrested with charges of assaulting an officer and resisting or impeding certain officers or employees, according to these court documents. Now, Johnson is accused of pointing a rifle at Louisville Metro police officers as well as federal officers on September 4th, the night before the 2020 Kentucky Derby, according to a probable cause affidavit. The alleged incident took place just after 8:30 p.m. as officers were conducting surveillance over demonstrators at Jefferson Square in downtown Louisville. At that time, an LMPD radio station went out notifying the officers a group of 6 to 8 heavily armed individuals were parked at Armory Place near a parking garage. 2 federal officers and 3 LMPD officers then went to the top of the nearby Jefferson County Grand Jury building to watch the group. Basically, they went up over on top to get a surveillance point, get a little bit of the high ground, and you can see here a photo from the surveillance video of Grandmaster Jay pointing his firearm flashlight at the officer. Now, this brings up an excellent topic that many of you should be aware of. When it comes to flashlights on your gun, this can be used to identify someone that you believe to be a threat at that moment. But it's important to have some sort of handheld flashlight for doing normal administrative tasks or just seeing stuff, because if you don't know what you're doing and you just point a gun with a flashlight at someone, what you're doing at that moment is actually pointing a gun at someone that might not necessarily need to have a gun pointed at them. In that case, it can be considered brandishing, assault, depending on your state laws and whatnot. Generally, if you point a gun at someone in a threatening manner, if it's not in the act of self-defense and not justified, it's going to be considered assault or brandishing, depending on, the circumstances, I guess. But I'm not a lawyer. This ain't legal advice. All the officers advised they were concerned Johnson might intentionally or even accidentally just charge a round at them. This is the funniest part about it, because I'm not entirely sure if they knew that it was him, but they probably had some sort of idea of who was assembling. These groups tend to have public announcements when they're going to be assembling. But the fact that they specifically thought that he might accidentally shoot them, I think that's just the funniest part about this, because it is so accurate. This guy has been involved in numerous instances where his people have shot their own people on accident due to poor weapon handling, which gets to an even bigger topic. Please, if you're going to have a firearm, get training. If you're going to have a firearm in public, if you're going to have a firearm with anyone nearby, understand how to use it safely, understand how to not shoot each other. It's very simple. There's 4 rules. Treat every gun as if it's loaded. Finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Don't point at anything you are not willing to kill or destroy. Know your target and its surroundings. So if you miss, or if the bullet goes through what you want to hit, where is that bullet going to go? Keep in mind, guns are dangerous or can be dangerous if you use them improperly. Officials said if Johnson is convicted of his charges, he faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison, according to news release from the United States Attorney Russell Coleman's office. Here in Kentucky, we revere our First and Second Amendment freedoms, not foolishness, which puts police and protesters at grave risk. Now, you got to kind of keep in mind, when you're going to be armed at a protest, especially if you're known for being a little bit reckless or a little bit dangerous, and you're pointing a gun at someone, the police are most likely not going to treat that as just a casual occurrence. They're most likely going to interpret that as some sort of threat or some sort of dangerous situation. If you're going to be armed, be responsible. If you're going to be armed in public, be more responsible and be aware of how that affects people's interpretation of events going on. This guy really does make us all look bad. And like I said, I have absolutely zero problem with people being armed and people being armed at protests. I don't care if you're a person of color. I don't care who you are. If you're going to be armed, that's awesome. Proud of you. Good for you. But be responsible. Be safe. Don't injure the people that are supposed to be on your side. Don't hurt people that don't need to be hurt. Very simple concept, but apparently they just can't get it right. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below. If you got any other links, instances of this guy, share it with me on Instagram. I don't know, find me there. I really appreciate everyone's support. This channel has kind of blown up recently. We're on the road to 90K at this point. We might hit 100K by the end of the year. I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch, going to be hard, but if you guys like, comment, subscribe, that'll help boost the algorithm, get this channel pumping. Maybe we hit 100K by the end of the year. Thank you, everyone. You know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.
This is my first weapon that I ever bought. I bought this weapon back in 1990 in Germany. This is an XR-15 Shorty. We call it a bullpup because this bitch got kicked to it. This bitch will knock you the fuck down. The interesting thing about this weapon is if I pull back the bolt, see that? See the bolt? There's no bullet in there. Pay very close attention. If I'm not paying attention and I take this weapon and I bang it, look what just happened. The bolt goes forward. The weapon has fired. I didn't touch the trigger. I just simply banged it on the table. If you sit down and you bang this on the ground, you will blow your head off. It happens in basic training every day. And you all get a letter and a flag saying your son was killed in a training accident. An old shotgun, if you drop it, it will fire. So don't believe these motherfuckers running around talking about you shouldn't have had your hand on the trigger. You don't have to have your hand on the trigger. Let me show you again. I'm going to sit down. I'm tired. You just committed an incident. Your hand was not on the trigger. Doesn't make a difference whether, and it was on safe. Unless you understand weapons for real, don't you listen to these motherfuckers who have no intention of ever picking up one and who don't understand that weapons go off by themselves all the time.